Welcome to the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
On September 28th, 1998, 24 hours prior to the events of Resident Evil 2, most of Raccoon City citizens have turned into zombies as a result of an outbreak of the T virus, a mutagenic virus secretly developed by the pharmaceutical company Umbrella. Jill Valentine, former member of the Raccoon Police Department Special Tactics and Rescue Service, aka STARS, is attacked in her apartment by an intelligent bioweapon known as the Nemesis T-type, specifically programmed by Umbrella to eliminate all surviving STARS members. Resident Evil 3 Remake. Howdy beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Nerdstalgic podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're good. As per usual, as you heard in the absolutely wonderfully terrifying plot summary done by yours truly, today we're going to be finally looking at Resident Evil 3 Remake. Oh, I am so excited for this game and to play this game and to review this game and just to play and experience it. I am overjoyed. But before we get into that, I've got to do a bit of housekeeping because I like to keep my house nice and clean. So make sure that you follow me on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod to be kept up to date on everything and anything that I am playing, reading, watching, and all that jazz. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, leave a like and a comment. If it always helps me out immensely. How YouTube works is that the more a video gets engagement, the higher it will be seen, and then more people will want to subscribe and follow the channel and all that jazz. So if you have subscribed and you want to help me out even further, a like and a comment will help me out greatly. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe now and leave a like and leave a comment, and I will love you forevers and evers. Also, if you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to leave a star rating. If you're on your phone, go right to the top where the stars are, click that. If you haven't done so yet, you can rate between 5 stars and 1 star, whatever you feel like is fair. And it helps me go up this Spotify algorithm. Wonderful. Now that is out of the way, as I mentioned, finally, we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 3 Remake. Now, I know what you're thinking. Luke, why are you doing this now? It's not Halloween. Well, good question, random listener. I was going to do Resident Evil 3 for Halloween. The original plan was, because I did Resident Evil 2 Remake for Halloween last year, I had an absolute ball with that game. Also, if you haven't listened to that review, please do go check it out. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's everywhere. It's a fantastic experience. I had a lot of fun with it and a lot of feedback, and people really enjoyed it. So if you haven't listened to that, please go back and check that out. So because I had such a fantastic time with that, I had planned of like, well, maybe I'll make it a yearly thing. I will do Resident Evil 2 last year, I'll do Resident Evil 3 this year, I'll do Resident Evil 4 next year, and then we'll go from there. Give sort of Capcom time to do the remakes. But because I had such a fantastic time with 2, I just wanted to play 3. But I thought, well, I got really, really busy, got no time, and then Christmas came up and all the other holidays, and then starting a new job, and everything just was crowded upon me. Then it was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to push this back. Also, last year, Resident Evil 4 Remake came out, and that was incredible and blew me away. And I was like, I really want to play it. I can't wait for Resident Evil 4. So I've got to get 3 out the way so I can go to 4. So it was just like, you know what? Screw it. I'll do it early. Also, don't worry, don't fret for all you Halloween lovers out there. Trust me, I have already figured out and already bought the replacement of what I'm going to be playing for Halloween for review. It's a game that absolutely terrifies me. It's not Resident Evil, and it's a game that I only played a little bit and then I ran away. So it's a game I'm going to come back to, and I'm going to be brave, and hopefully where I'll be going, they will hear me scream. But we'll see. We'll see what Halloween brings. No more hints. If you got it, tweet me. If you didn't, don't worry about it. You'll find out in Halloween. But yeah, I'm really excited to come back to Resident Evil, the world of Resident Evil. I really want to read the books, but have you looked at how much the Resident Evil books are? Expensive. So yeah, gonna happen. But I do have plans for things Resident Evil. To be honest, Resident Evil has become a staple of this podcast, of this channel. After covering all the movies and covering the games, I feel like Resident Evil is just something that I just do now. It's part of me. So it's a yearly thing, and I'm just jumping on that bandwagon and coming back and be like, Resident Evil's back, baby. So I'm really, really excited. But one thing I want to mention before we get into the nitty gritty, before we get into my plans and how this review is going to go, my different playthroughs and all that fun stuff, I do want to mention something here, and I'll go into more detail upon it when we get to the development of the remake. But I am aware, and I have heard about the changes that were made to this game, about levels being removed and things like that. But I'll be honest with you, I never played the original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I never played it. So I have no experience, I have no knowledge of those things that are missing, like majority of people that reviewed this game do. So I wanted to say it now because when I do my review, I'm probably not going to mention the changes because for me, this is my first time experience Resident Evil 3. So it kind of gives you a unique perspective of a sort of novice fan coming into this game. And then if you want the more sort of other side review of a hardcore fan coming into it, I'm sure there are other episodes and videos out there by other fantastic creators like sort of the Ackman or Angry Joe and Kadikarus and all that. I'm sure they can do a far better job of annotating the differences and their thoughts and feelings on them. But for me, as I've never played those games, I can't speak on them. So you probably won't hear them from me. So I do apologize if that upsets anybody. But I wanted to be straight and honest of like, I haven't played the originals. So any changes that are made to this version of the game, I will not know at all. And to be honest, if people had never mentioned them, I probably wouldn't know. So I just wanted to mention that here. Anyway, so on to the development of Resident Evil 3 Remake. A lot went into the development of this game, right? So, Resident Evil 3 was developed by Capcom as a remake of the original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which was released for PlayStation in 1999. The idea of producing such a remake was considered shortly after Capcom had started development on the 2019 remake of Resident Evil 2. Because Capcom had previously remastered the 2002 remake of the original Resident Evil in 2015, completing the trilogy became part of their goal. Capcom was assisted by subsidiary K2 Inc. and external companies Redworks and M2, the latter being founded by former Platinum Games CEO Takahata Miyanami, Platinum Games veteran Kyokyo Seikata. Again, I do apologize if I'm butchering these names. I struggle with them when I do my Studio Ghibli reviews, so I do apologize. Anyway, continuing, who had originally worked on the first 4 Resident Evil games as a programmer and designer, was the game's director. While development on Resident Evil 3 and the Resident Evil 2 remake did not start at the same time, there was a significant development overlap between both projects. As a result, both games share certain technologies and run on Capcom's proprietary RE engine. Some people who had worked on the original game were involved in the project and had an opportunity to rebuild their vision of what Raccoon City should look like, because Resident Evil 3 takes place almost concurrently with the events of Resident Evil 2. The development team decided to tie both stories together more than in the originals, improving the pace of the story and developing better characterizations, especially the relationship between Jill and Carlos, were a major priority. The team wanted Jill to be resilient and capable of surviving nearly impossible odds, while Carlos was designed to feel like her true ally. Their outfits were altered accordingly, with Jill wearing more practical appeal and Carlos sporting a grittier look. Capcom used the likeness of Russian model Sasha Zove as the basis for Jill's facial appearance. To honor the more action-orientated approach of the original game, the team revamped the movement speed and animations from the Resident Evil 2 remake and included a counter action which allows the player to automatically aim at an opponent's head after dodging an attack. The progress of designing Nemesis went through several iterations, although the art team made sure the new character model stayed true to the original concept. They redesigned it so that it could fit into a reimagined and photorealistic setting. One of the most notable changes from the original design is the fact that he now wears body bags instead of clothes. According to the game's director, Kyoko Sakata, this aesthetic choice was made to show that Nemesis is not a completed model, but a prototype. In an interview with PlayStation blog, Sakata further explained that Nemesis' new attire was meant to be restrictive gear that was haphazardly quickly created to contain it, which is why it has such visuals. The game's producer, Peter Fabinino, further noted that the redesign was a way for the remake to keep to the essence of the original game, but at the same time modernize it. Sakata initially wanted Nemesis to actively look for and stalk the players throughout the game, but after he saw that the Resident Evil 2 team was programming the tyrant in their game to behave in this way, he realized that players that familiar Resident Evil 2 would not be surprised by his game's enemy. As a result, the team improved the artificial intelligence of Nemesis so that he would use weapons, grab Jill with his tentacles, and jump long distances to appear right next to her. The team waited to give players that feeling that they were consistently being pursued by a relentless opponent, but they also wanted to give players periods of respite and make them believe that Jill could defeat him. Also, going on to the changes, although Resident Evil 3 features the same premise as the original game, many parts were rearranged, especially when compared to the Resident Evil 2 remake, and several locations from the original were cut, namely the clock tower, the graveyard, the park, and City Hall. Conversely, the game's storytelling and dialogue was expanded significantly because Sakata wanted to tell a more consistent story. In particular, Carlos has a more prominent role. The original game's multiple endings and live choices, which affected how the story unfolds, were entirely removed in favor of a more focused story. Additionally, the mercenaries' Operation Mad Jackal mode, which involves the player trying to escape the city within a time limit, was excluded from the remake. However, Capcom decided that Resident Evil 3 would be bundled with Resident Evil Resistance, a separate online multiplayer game developed by a Taiwanese company called Neobards. About 90% of the game was completed by January 2020, with the remaining work to be done being fine adjustments. The game's overall development took 3 years to complete. So that is the development of Resident Evil 3. I knew a lot went into it, and to be honest, I have heard not negative, just a lot of things off a very sort of passionate fans being like they change things, they remove things. It doesn't have the feel of the original has. It doesn't have that feel of terror with Nemesis when he appears, and you know it a lot of people sort of say, this is what I've heard, that you had the Tyrant, which was an incredible addition. Well, he's already there in the Resident Evil 2, but he was an incredible addition in terms of he stalked you, and it was terrifying, and it was absolutely terrifying. I crapped myself many times whenever I heard his huge feet stomp him. But then Nemesis didn't feel like a threat, really. And these are the things that I've heard here and now. Again, whenever I do my reviews, whenever I go into a game or whatever it is, I try to go in empty. I try to go with a glass empty. I don't know anything. Go in fresh and experience it for what it is, not for what I've heard or not what I want it to be or feel it should be. Because I feel like that way you can get an accurate, fair, and just interpretation of what the thing is, instead of it being tainted by what you want it to be. And that's the same. That should be the same for everything, really. But yeah, so despite obviously with the development of things being changed, because I'll be honest, I like the look of Nemesis in this movie. It reminds me of the Nemesis from the original from the movie Resident Evil 2 Apocalypse, which I really really enjoy. That's one of my favorite Resident Evil movies. But I love the style and the design of the Nemesis there. And same here, I love the design of Nemesis in this one. And the idea that he has rubbish on him and bags on him, like, yes, I can get he might look a bit silly, but I always liked it because again he's a bioweapon, he's a biohazard. It's kind of the fact of it's a rush job. He was a prototype. It's like, okay, we've got to get something out there to kill the stars because otherwise they're going to tell the rest of the world what Umbrella did in Resident Evil 1. So we've got to kill them, get rid of them as soon as possible. So it's like a hapdash sort of fact of let's just put something together. We've got this creature. We haven't got time to make him a suit, so we'll just put things on him and we'll wrap him up and he'll have breathing tubes and things like that. Like for me, being somebody who is not a hardcore fan, I like the design. I like the look of him, and I like the idea and concept of it was a creature that was just haphazardly put together quickly just to get rid of a problem, which is definitely something Umbrella would do, from my experience anyway. I'm sure hardcore fans are probably sitting there going, "That's not what Umbrella would do." If so, I do apologise, but from my small experience, and I'm slowly getting into this world, and I'm slowly starting to get into the world of the games, not just from what I know from the movies. It that feels like something sort of Umbrella would do to me. But again, I might be wrong, I might not be wrong. Anyway, the part of the review that you are most looking forward to. So my plans of this review going further. So if you listen to my review of Resident Evil 2, you will know that I broke it up into two playthroughs. Now, with that game specifically, the reason being for that one is because I wanted to play as Leon and Claire, right? Two different characters, two different storylines, and I absolutely loved it and adored it for that. But for this one, you only play as Jill in this game, so there's no need really to do a second run. But I want to do a second run, and I'll explain why in a minute. So this is my plan for my first run. For my first playthrough, for my first run, I will play in assisted mode to get my bearings. Because one, it's been a while since I played Resident Evil 2, so I'm going to have to get my bearings back, and there's some new combat features, and just kind of get my bearings of how the game works, the controls, and also kind of learn the map layouts, where I've got to go, what I've got to do, that sort of thing. Also, I can experience the story. So in my first go around, I'm playing it assisted. I can experience the story and what the story offers, and that all that sort of jazz. So it's more of a cakewalk. But knowing Resident Evil, it's not going to be a cakewalk. Most likely, it's going to kick my ass when I get cocky, and it will, I'm sure. Also, the fact of when you complete the game for the first time, you do get the option of choosing what sort of additions you can have, so you can unlock more ammo packs, or you can unlock like a special sort of knife that's on fire that sets enemies on fire and stuff like that. So I would say it's worth going through with the first playthrough so that I can get my bearings, experience the story, and unlock a few bits of equipment that I might need, so that when I do my second playthrough, which will be on standard difficulty, I will know what I'm doing. I won't have to worry so much about the story because I already experienced it in the first half, and obviously I would have done a review about my first experience anyway. Also, the second playthrough allows me to focus on the gameplay. When I play it on standard, once I know what I'm doing, I can focus on how the gameplay changes and things like that. You know, the fun side thing, as I did when I played as Claire. Claire was my standard run. I played as assisted as Leon because he was a rookie, I was a rookie. We were both learning on the job. Claire, I already knew what I was doing, and I was a lot more capable, and the game did kick my ass for it, and the game really realised, was like, Luke, he's being cocky, we've got to test him, and the game did. It was still a fun experience, but I was tested. It's the same thing here. It's the fact of get all my unlockables, experience the story, second playthrough, then it's all going to the wall, gameplay, and then with all the additions that I unlocked for completing the game the first time round, then I can use those and it will make the second playthrough easier. Hopefully, depends on if I choose the right things or not. And then who knows, I might do a third playthrough in my own time to unlock more of the extra things, and because each time it will just make the next playthrough and the next playthrough more fun. But yeah, my end goal is to try and beat my time running through it the first time round and to beat my score. I think when I played as Leon and I played as Claire. I think I finished those games with a B. So I'm quite proud of myself, considering it was my first time playing a Resident Evil game properly, and I came out with a B with assisted and came out with a B as standard. So I was very, very proud. But I will share them because obviously at the end of Resident Evil they do bring up your stats. I'll take pictures of them as proof and I will post them so you can all look and see Luke's not lying. He did complete it on standard difficulty and he did complete it as assisted. And more importantly, I'm an achievement hunter. And you don't get an achievement for completing the story. You only get an achievement for completing the story if you do it as standard. So I have to do a second playthrough anyway, just to get that achievement. So it will be done. So I won't chicken out. I promise. I will do it. But that's my plans anyway. I'm going to do my first playthrough. I do a review of my first playthrough. I talk about the story, the characters, all sort of my initial thoughts and feelings, that sort of thing. And then I'll go off, do a second playthrough, and then that will be more focused on gameplay and difficulty. And just to see how it compared to my first time going, if the game really kicked my ass, or if it didn't, or if Nemesis is scarier when it's standard, compared to assisted. These sort of things. These are the important parts of the review that you really want to listen to. So that is how this review is going to go from now on. But that's all she wrote, really. That is the introduction. I'm now going to go off and do my first run of Resident Evil 3. I'm incredibly excited. I'm also a little terrified because Nemesis scared me when I first watched it in Resident Evil Apocalypse. So again, I'm scared, but I'm going to be brave. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then, then I'll do my second playthrough. But until then, until my first playthrough's done, you're going to have to wait. Well, only a few more seconds. I'm going to go off and play now. And fingers crossed, the Luke that you listen to in a couple seconds is hopeful. Or maybe he's terrified. Or maybe I didn't record this and nobody hears it. We will see. But until then, we will see what happens. And wish me luck. So, I've not long finished my first run unassisted of Resident Evil 3 Remake, and my first impressions are I absolutely loved it. One of my downsides, though, is the fact that despite absolutely enjoying it, loving it, having a fantastic time, loving the characters, loving the story, loving the continuation, loving all the things that it ties into Resident Evil 2 Remake that I really, really loved and enjoyed. But the only downside is it's short. That's my only real downside, is the fact of Resident Evil 2 Remake. I was able to complete that game within my first time playing it within a week, right? On and off, on a week, playing a little bit here, then going off, playing something else, or, doing life, coming back to it when I had free time. I'd complete it in a week, and then my second playthrough, I was able to complete it within 2 to 3 days, right? Because I knew what I was doing, I knew where to go, I knew what I needed to do, what I needed to collect, and all that jazz. But this game is really, really short. And I would imagine the reason it feels short is because of all the things they took out of it. And again, as I said in the introduction, I have no experience of the things that were in it previously, so I can't really comment on them. But I would imagine that if you had a long form game and you started taking chunks out, levels out, and puzzle pieces and things like that, I would imagine that, it would come out quite short in the end. And that's kind of a downer, really, is that I managed to complete this within 2 days because I was enjoying myself. I really wanted to play Jill for longer. I wanted to experience her story for a longer period of time than I got. I wanted more time with Carlos as well, and that sort of story, and just kind of learn more about what happened before Leon and Claire got to Raccoon City. Before, when they got there, the whole sort of city was a shit show, really. But by the time when you had Jill and Carlos, it was only just beginning to become a shit show. You know what I mean? So I wanted more of that. So that's the only downside I had. But like I said, apart from that, I loved it all. I really enjoyed myself. I enjoyed Nemesis. It was really interesting. Again, downside with Nemesis, though, is even though he was interesting at first, he went from being, well, to be honest with you, and I'll be completely honest, I didn't play the game as the game wanted you to play. So because of my experience from playing Resident Evil 2, I knew that it was the best thing for me, for a player, would be to do everything I can before moving on. So if the game told me to go somewhere, I'd be like, okay, I'd look at my map and be like, what equipment do I have? Can I open any doors? Can I pick any locks? Can I cut any chains? X, Y, and Z. What are these things that I've got in my inventory that I can currently go out into the map and do and collect before I need to go to the next set piece, right? Because I knew that as soon as I come to that next piece, some sort of scheduled event is going to happen. I'm going to be moved on to another section and I ain't going to be able to come back, or the area that I'm in is going to be made harder. Akin to Mr. X, which if you listen to my Resident Evil 2 remake review, that is basically what I did. Before Mr. X showed up, I did everything that I could before he turned up. So by the time that he did appear, I wasn't bamboozled. I wasn't so terrified. It was still terrifying, but at least I knew where to go. I knew my head in. I knew that I didn't have to backtrack at all. I just needed to go to this direction or this direction to get certain pieces. So it was still terrifying, but it was less terrifying. The issue being is the fact of when you first start playing this game, when you're in sort of downtown Raccoon City, which is a really beautiful and visually stunning area, you're just not there long enough really to appreciate it all, is the fact of I did everything I could. I got the bolt cutters, I picked the lock, the game wanted me to go forwards, I'd go backwards. Like to play, like to go forwards, you've got to go back in Resident Evil games. Really, that's the best way I can explain it. It's like don't go forwards until you've done everything that you can in one area, and then go forwards, and then go back on yourself, do all the stuff, and then go forwards again. It's a very sort of forwards backwards motion really with Resident Evil games. From my experience, anyway, I might be wrong from a hardcore fan, but from a newbie coming in, that's been my experience with Resi games so far. And that's basically what it was here. So by the time that Nemesis appeared, he lacked all of his fear really, because I had a grenade on me when he first appeared, attacked me after I did the power relay station to get the power on to start the train up so we could escape the city. By the time he appeared, I had a grenade. I threw a grenade at his feet. He went ah, and then he relinquished like a box on the floor, and that was it. And so while he was on the ground, I ran away. And he did catch me once. I tried to outsmart the game. The game wanted me to go in one direction. Instead of going up a flight of stairs, I went up a ladder instead, and I tried to go around him. He disappeared out of nowhere and just what I was gonna say, but he T-boned me, just took me out, knocked me flying, and that made me jump, and that did scare me. But once you get past that section, and if you play it like I played it, where you did all the things you needed to do first, you can just run around him or dodge him, even because this game has a dodge mechanic, which I really like. That's that new feature. I really love that. I wish RE2 had it, because it would have made certain sort of interactions a lot more easier. But again, because I was able to dodge him, it was I got around him. I went to the next set piece, and the next thing I know, every time I saw Nemesis then on, it was either I was running away from him down a corridor, or I was in a little arena and I was fighting him. And that was it, really. He lost all of his fear. I was really expecting the same levels I got with Mr. X. I was expecting to be terrified. I was expecting to be, really sort of, when I'd hear his feet stomping around, I'd be, oh God, run, 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 run. And I only ever got that one time. And I guess maybe if I played the game the way it wanted me to play it, and I followed the objectives, and then I did all the backtracking stuff to get all the collectibles and all the weapon upgrades and all that, then maybe it would have been terrifying, because he would have been there and chasing me around. That would have been fair. Maybe I've sort of took myself out of that pleasure. I don't know. But how I played it was how I assume most people would play a Resident Evil game, going back, getting everything before you can. So again, by the time he appeared, it was a bit lackluster, really. The boss fights were great. I enjoyed the boss fights. I enjoyed the different stages of fighting Nemesis. I'll be honest with you, the final boss fight was a bit sort of anticlimactic, really. I won't spoil it for anybody that doesn't know. It's a cool set piece, don't get me wrong. Like, what you get to do to Nemesis is awesome, but it's not great. To be honest, it's a little lackluster, and it's a real bummer, because I love Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 2 Apocalypse, the movie, with Mila Jovovich. That's my favourite of all the Resident Evil films, next to Resident Evil 1. And one of the reasons what's my favourite is because Nemesis is in the second film, and he's fantastic in that. He's terrifying as he hunts down the stars, and he hunts down Alice at the same time. And he's menacing, and he's terrifying, and he's scary, like Mr. X, the tyrant is. But yeah, when he shows up, it's like, oh god, scary, and then it's like, oh, okay, that's a bummer, and that's just how I felt. So despite liking everything, and I even enjoyed Nemesis when he was there, he just wasn't as terrifying as Mr. X, and that's the only sort of downside. But that's my first impressions. As for the sort of the story you should play as Jill Valentine. After the events of Resident Evil 1, you're still trying to put pieces together, trying to sort of find proof, or say more proof, that Umbrella is behind the T virus, and that they're a bad company, and that you are in Raccoon City. It's a couple of days, and then you'll get to leave. And then just before you get to leave, you get a phone off your friend. He phones you, tells you to get out of there. But just before you get out of there, the Nemesis comes in, literally comes through the wall, like the oh yeah guy. I can't remember his name from Family Guy and all that. Oh yeah, that guy comes in, knocks you about in another running section, and then you are free to explore Raccoon City. From there, you meet Carlos and you meet the other people, the Umbrella Mercenary Corp. There is I think it's a UCBS, I think. Anyway, so Umbrella Corporation, mercenary group anyway. But these are the people that Umbrella send in, the mercenaries that they have. You meet Carlos, you meet the rest of the team, you meet one other STARS member, and slowly but surely, as the story goes on, it starts to thread in moments. You get to go to the police station for Resident Evil 2, which was, you don't get to spend a lot of time in there. You go there as Carlos, and sadly, it's wonderful to be back, because all the old memories were coming back from last year when I played Resident Evil 2. I had all the old memories coming back, and it was like muscle memory. I didn't even need to look at the menu or even at the map. When the game told me you've got to go to the STARS HQ, I'm like, I know where that is. And as soon as he opened up the door on the west side of the building, I'm like, yeah, I know where to go. So I ran through. I kneecapped all the enemies, because there's no point wasting your ammo shooting them in the head. You kneecap them all as much as you can. Obviously, Carlos has an assault rifle. You run around, go work you up the stairs, kill a few lickers, get there, jobs are done. And I'm thinking, yeah, we get to spend more time in the police station. And then no, it's like, what? You've got my nostalgia, brain going. I'm ready to explore the Raccoon City Police Headquarters again. It's like, no, you've done it now. Next section. And that's just how it feels. Like the beginning, it sets it up to be something incredible, to be this kind of, you're in these little hub areas, and you've got to go around and you've got to look for puzzle pieces and clues and things like that. And it's really not, to be honest. The game this game is not, it's Resident Evil, but it's not Resident Evil. It's more of a shooter. It's more of a third person shooter, really. You spend majority of the time shooting zombies than you do trying to get around the zombies. You spend most of your time shooting Nemesis, and things like that. Especially when you play as Carlos. When you play as Carlos, you've got that much ammo, and there's that much ammo around, that you're just there with the assault rifle, and you've got flashbangs, you get grenades, and you literally just powerhouse. And it's fun. Don't get me wrong. It makes a change from Resident Evil 2 to go around to be able to shoot everything. And I'm not sort of being negative to that. It's just more just the fact of, I don't know. I guess coming from Resident Evil 2 Remake, I was just expecting more of the same, really. More of that, just sort of with different characters. And again, I wasn't disappointed. I did enjoy it. It was just the fact of I was expecting one thing, and I got something else. And what I got else was still fun. It just wasn't what I was hoping for and kind of wanted. I wanted the Nemesis to be like the Tyrant, Mr. X. I wanted Jill's gameplay, and even Carlos's gameplay, to feel, like playing as Leon and playing as Claire. I wanted the game to be against me. I wanted the game to be like, oh, look, he's getting clever. He's being cocky. Here we go. Let's throw the Tyrant at him. Let's throw Nemesis at him. Or let's throw a group of zombies at him and see how he gets out of that one. Like he did when I played as Claire. After my first playthrough as Leon, I got cocky. And I admit that. I was cocky. And the game knew I was being cocky, so as I was playing through Claire, I got my ass handed to me in the station very early on, and I quickly had to revert back to how I was when I first started playing, of like, okay, I'm playing as a different character now, I've got different equipment, Claire doesn't play like Leon, I can't do certain things, I can't go certain places, so I had to, again, relearn, and again, it was harder, and there was more skill involved, and it was a more fun experience second time round than it was first time round, because I had to use everything that I learned playing as Leon to help to survive playing as Claire. And it was that sort of experience that I love so much. Where in this one, I played as Jill. I don't know if I when I do my second run as on the standard difficulty, because I played on assisted in this one, that it'll be much of a challenge. And I don't mean it in terms of skill. I just means in the fact of, because I know when Nemesis will appear and how to get around a Nemesis. Unless the game really throws curveballs at me and things like that, then I don't know if it's going to be like the same experience where like I can go in all cocky, guns blazing, even on standard mode, and still come through smiling. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah. Also talk about sort of gameplay quickly as well. As mentioned, there's a dodge roll, there's a dodge mechanic that you can dodge around. Because I played on assisted, you actually start the game off with an assault rifle, which is wonderful, which is great. But I didn't really find myself using it. I only really used it near to the end, mainly because, and again, I know it's going to sound stupid, but my thinking was just because they give it me doesn't mean I need to use it, because it kind of felt like, even though there was assault rifle ammo everywhere, there was handgun ammo everywhere, it was a bit odd, again coming from RE2, where even when you play as assisted, there's only a certain amount of ammo, there's a certain amount of things that you need to pick up, there's only a certain amount of green herbs and pink herbs and things like that around, so you basically got to allocate stuff like that. In this one, not so much. You haven't got to allocate what you need to take, what you don't need to take. Again, you're always getting weapon upgrades, you don't really have to look for them, they're mostly just around most areas, things like that. You get the shotgun very early on, you haven't really got to try. As long as you get the bolt cutters, you get it. And it's things like this is the fact of, in the gameplay, where you don't really have to try so much. So because there was so much ammo around, it kind of felt like in the early stage of the game. And again, like I mentioned, because I wasn't going up against Nemesis near to the middle to the end, really. Against the zombies, it just felt like a waste of ammo. So I just walked around my pistol majority of the game, kneecapping zombies, taking legs off, or shoot them in the head and dodge. Or if they try to grab me, I'd dodge past them if I could. And again, I know when you play as assisted, you get loads of resources anyway, but it just felt more of an abundance. It just felt an overabundance of anything. It was everywhere. And again, maybe it'd be different when I play standard, but it just felt like just because they give me an assault rifle didn't mean that I had to use it, and I didn't, to be honest. When I got the grenade launcher, I ended up using that most of the time, because that's basically what the game wanted me to use, especially when we're in the sewers. Again, it was wonderful to be back in the sewers. I never thought I'd say that, but I had a fun time in the sewers when I played as Claire and Leon in RE2. But we ended up going back to the sewers in this one. We don't spend a lot of time there, the police station. You're only there for a bit, sadly, and then that's it. But apart from that, if the when you're in the sewers, it felt like you had to use the grenade launcher, because the enemies that you're going up against, the gammas, these big sort of frog reptile sort of creatures that will just swallow you whole if you don't keep your distance, they're flammable. And there's a lot of flame ammo for the grenade launcher lying around, so it made no sense to pump them full of lead with the assault rifle in that situation. So again, it was like I don't really need to use it. So majority of the time, before I managed to get loads of hip upgrades, so I got more inventory, majority of the time the assault rifle actually stayed in storage, I didn't really bring it out, like I said, to the end when I was going against the stage 2 and stage 3 versions of Nemesis, that I really needed the rapid fire aspect of it. But even then, when I went up against him before the very last time I go against him, when I'm in that sort of vat of like acid, and you've got to shock him as he jumps on these steel containers, really. Even then, doing that situation, there was never a moment where I was like, I need to get the assault rifle. Like, I've got the shotgun. The shotgun does good enough for damage. I've got my pistol, which is accurate. I can shoot him in the head. So yeah, I never really felt like I needed to. And especially you get the Magnum halfway through the game as well. So it was like, well, I don't need to use the pistol. I've got the Magnum now. The Magnum's got more rounds, but by the time I got the Magnum, it was near the end of the game. So it never felt like, well, I didn't really want to waste it on zombies. And you don't really get to fight Nemesis that many times afterwards. So it's the fact of, it makes the job quicker, but it just didn't feel like I needed to use the assault rifle, because the game gave me what I needed. It gave me the tools for the job of what I needed, and then I didn't need that tool afterwards, but I still kept it on me, because whenever you face Nemesis, if you hit him with an explosive round, he would go down. Just make it easier, really, and it'd be no point to have the assault rifle. And to be honest, the only time I actually used the assault rifle constantly when I played as Carlos, because the game, again, it gave you the tools that you needed. You're getting tons of waves of zombies at you. You've got tons of lickers. You've got these big, massive lizard men, monsters, zombie things that attack you. So it's like, I'm just going to use the assault rifle here, and I only really use the pistol if I really, really needed to, or I wanted to change things up. Otherwise, I had flashbangs, grenades, and my assault rifle as Carlos. So yeah, the gameplay's fun, but it's not a challenge. It's more just the fact of it's a third person shooter. That's basically what it is. Resident Evil 3 is a shooter. Um, don't expect survival horror, because it didn't feel like survival horror to me. And again, I know I played unassisted. I need to keep repeating that, because I know a lot of people are going to be going, but you played unassisted, you don't get the full experience. No, trust me, I'm going to do a second playthrough and I'll get the proper experience, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it changes. And if it does, I promise you that I will mention it in my second run, when I get around to doing that, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I like the story, I like the gameplay, and like I said, my first run went really, really well. My end scorecard, for anybody who's interested, I posted it on Twitter, so people will be able to see it. So game mode assisted, clear time, I did it in 4 hours, 39 minutes and 8 seconds dead. Total play time of 5 hours and 44 minutes and 53 seconds. I was really close to getting a B ranking, so I got a C, right? But I was 39 minutes off getting a B ranking, which really annoyed me. So my next goal, going in playing on standard, is to get the B rank. Is to get, because I got B rank playing as Leon, and I got B rank playing as Claire. So that is my goal of, like, I want to be. That's my standard. That's what I'm going for. Time saved. So I saved 24 times, which is the only times I really had to save was mainly because I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know what the next stage was going to be. I didn't know if the game was going to get harder, or if it was going to take me into a situation like downtown Raccoon City, where I'd have to go around from building to building, kind of like the beginning of the game, as well as kind of like the police station, where you've got to go from room to room and you're being chased from Nemesis. Because I didn't know what the game was going to throw at me, I was constantly saving just to make sure of, like, I know what I'm doing, I know I am. But to be honest with you, my second run, because again it's only a short game and there's not a lot to remember, and there's really hardly any puzzles really in the game, there's no real need to save as much. So I think on my next second run, unless it's really, really challenging, and again maybe it's just me being cocky, but unless it's really challenging and difficult, I don't feel like I will need to save as much. And I only died once, and the only reason that I died, I think because I wasn't paying attention. I think I can't remember how I died, but I think I wasn't paying attention, and I think Nemesis got me by accident. He basically cornered me because I didn't know the layout, and I couldn't dodge past him, and he just kept picking me up and throwing me against the wall, and I just died. But again, that was my fault, really. But yeah, not bad. C rank. 4 hours and 39 minutes and 8 seconds. That's okay. That's all right for a first time go, I admit. Way better. Obviously, again, Resident Evil 2 is a longer game. So obviously, it took me longer to complete it in my total clear time. But yeah, not bad for such a short game. Completed in 2 days. I'll probably be the same for this one, to be honest. I'll probably, when I do my standard run, it'll probably be the same. See if we can get that B ranking, we'll see. But yeah, my overall thoughts of my first sort of initial run of Resident Evil 3 is that I do like it. I do enjoy it. I was just expecting Resident Evil 2 remake, really. I was expecting my experience from then to transfer over to this one, to be survival horror, to be scary. I didn't really feel scared many times. There was no moments where I felt terrified about going around a corner, going through a door. The only real time I got scared was when that one time when Nemesis came out of nowhere, got me on a roof, and basically pinned me in a corner, and I couldn't move, I couldn't dodge. Every time I dodged past him, he'd grab me. And that was the only real time that it scared me, because he came out of nowhere. I tried to outsmart the game. The game threw him at me out in a position where I didn't think he would appear. And then, yeah, I'll be honest, I died unfairly. But if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have died. Because again, it's not a very hard game. And again, I know I played unassisted. It just didn't feel difficult. Now, maybe when I get to standard, I'll be dying all the time. We'll see. But yeah, my overall thoughts and feelings of my first run is that I really, really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It's just not what I was expecting. But again, it is what it is. One thing I do want to mention though that I did like a lot was that when you complete the game, you get a thing called the shop that opens up, and from completing challenges in the game, which are tied to achievements, you collect points, and with these points, you can then buy extra things. So you can buy a costume for Jill, which is the original outfit that she wore in the original RE3 Nemesis games. You can buy tokens, you can buy field guides and things like that. Will give you buffs, make you stronger, make you more resistant, make you do more damage, that sort of thing. You can get weapons, extra weapons. You can get an infinite pistol, infinite rifle. You can get like an infinite rocket launcher, things like that. And the whole idea behind it is one of the things that I really love about Resident Evil is that replayability. It's the fact of, right, you played it once, this is what you've unlocked. If you play through it again, the game will be easier because you'll have more things, because you've unlocked things for doing certain challenges, doing certain achievements, or completing the game on a different level. So when you play through it again, it's a different experience because you've got like infinite ammo on your pistol, or you've got a new costume or something like that, which I really like and enjoyed that about RE2. It's kind of the same here. The only difference is the fact of you get to choose what gift you get, what unlockable you have. So I think I went for I think I got about 7,280 points by the time I finished the game. So I got the Jill's alternate costume because I wanted to use that for my second run on standard difficulty, just to kind of make the game a bit more different, a bit more fun. And then I went for an extra hit pouch. Just so when I started the game, I'd have a lot more inventory, because I try to go for the things that were like, I haven't got a lot of points and I don't want to splurge on just a certain gun. So I wanted just to go on something that I knew would be worth it going through a second run. So I was like, I need more storage because there's not going to be many resources. So the more I can kind of pack mule as much as possible, so I don't have to worry about having enough ammo, having enough healing items, would be all right. And then an alternate costume just to mix things up. But yeah, so that is my first run. Not bad. Pretty good, I would say. I'm going to go off now and do my second run in standard difficulty, which is norm for Resident Evil games. And then when I return, I will let you know on my thoughts and feelings on that one. Does the game improve? Is it harder? Is it more fun? Is it scarier because I'm more sort of vulnerable? We will see. But until then, I will catch you in a second. Right, so I just finished my second run on standard difficulty, and I'm going to say something here. I'm going to swear in this one, so I do apologise, but I'd imagine if you're listening to this and you've gotten this far, you're probably an adult and you probably like Resident Evil, and you really probably wouldn't care about swearing. So I'm just going to say it right now. Nemesis is a dick. He is a motherfucker. And I don't even think it's because I got cocky. I don't even think it's because the game was trying to be clever, like with Resident Evil 2. Generally, he's an asshole. He's not even a fun nemesis. He's not even a fun somebody, like a tyrant, somebody who's going to chase you. He is annoying. And why did nobody tell me that this motherfucker could jump? So what I'm basically trying to explain is the fact of when I first ran through my first run, right? As I explained, how I played the game is that when you get to the downtown area, the first area that you really get to explore after sort of the interlude, I basically did everything that I did before. I went round, I got all the sort of bits of collectibles and the ammo and all the things that I needed, opened up all the doors. I did all that, and I thought, oh, I'm being clever, and I'm not going to have any issue because, like, when Nemesis does appear and I run away from him, he's not going to be too difficult. He chases me, but I can usually run away. I can dodge him as well if need be. And obviously, my first experience is that when I ran away from him, he wasn't an issue. Really, he didn't do anything that would make me think, oh, he's just like the tyrant. As long as I can run away. Whereas in my second run, he was a dick. He jumps, and he not only just jumps, he jumps right in front of you. Literally having many times where he would jump in front of you and then he would just grab you, he would throw you to the ground, and because I'm on standard difficulty, there's not many resources to bring myself back to life, so I ended up dying multiple times to him. there were also unfair moments where like there would be a door where I've got to go through, and he would just appear there out of nowhere. So then I would have to dodge and weave him and other zombies at the same time, while somehow getting around him, while he's also chasing me. And it was odd because he'd never done that in my first playthrough as assisted. Maybe he doesn't jump in the assisted mode, or maybe he doesn't use his tentacle thing in the assisted mode. I don't know. Or maybe I just got lucky and I was able to outrun him in my first playthrough. But I was expecting the Tyrant. I was expecting Mr. X. Whereas when I played that game on assisted and when I got around to playing it on standard mode, it never felt it. He was always menacing and he was always terrifying, but there was never a moment where I felt this is unfair. I knew the layout, I knew where to run, I knew what to do. There was never a moment where I felt like this is unfair, that he's cornered me, and the only times that he'd ever corner me, that was my fault, that was my doing, because I wasn't paying attention, where I didn't choose the most intelligent and best route and that sort of thing. It was my fault each time, so it wasn't unfair with Nemesis because he can jump and he can hit you, especially when you haven't got a lot of ammo. There's not many places you can run to. You go up the stairs, he disappears there. He jumps and he climbs things, unlike the Tyrant. He's always there, but at moments that's really unfair. So the majority of the deaths that I got in this, because I died a lot more in this than I did in the first run, was just because of that unfairness. He is a dick, and not a fun tyrant. He is just an asshole, an inconvenience at best. I wouldn't mind if like he was more like Mr. X, where the fact of he appears and it's inconvenient, yes, but it was still sort of fair. So like the only time that I would ever get messed up is the fact if I made a mistake, not because the game was being unfair. So again, like I said, I don't feel like it was because of me getting cocky and getting over sort of confident. Generally, I just think it was down to the fact of Nemesis is just a knobhead in this game, and I hate to say it because I love the Nemesis character. It was really, really fascinating, and I love the idea of Nemesis in the Resident Evil movies. But in this one, I just no, I just hated him. Most of the annoyance and grievance I had in this game was down to him. One thing I did like though that I forgot to mention in my first run was that I did not know, and maybe this is common knowledge to Resident Evil fans, but I didn't know that Nemesis is a strain of a parasite. Now I don't know if he's part of the last Plagos parasite from RE 3, RE4, I mean, sorry, because it's made by Umbrella Europe. And obviously, Umbrella United States, America, they deal in viruses, and obviously they make the tyrants, and the tyrants are a modified version of the T virus. But so it was fascinating to find the differences between virus and parasite as to why um, the parasitic side of Nemesis, he's just so invulnerable and you can't really kill him. He's more of a, I'd say more, it seems to be more of a bullet sponge than Mr. X is really. But I love that story detail overall. But my overall experience playing in standard mode, apart from the Nemesis moments, is that it was challenging. Like I mentioned, I died quite a few times in it. And granted, it was mainly down to Mr. X, but a lot of the times it was either down to me rushing, trying to get through areas, or it was just unfair that a lot of the enemies that I was fighting um, would just like like wait, the zombies were bullet sponges. Even if you shoot them in the leg, it would take a lot more shots, even with an assault rifle, for them to go down. And a lot of the times when the zombies were down, they would do the whole. Zombies do a thing in this game that when they are down on the ground, once they're dead, once they're gone, right? They do a little jolt and they make a noise, and then that's it, they're done, and I can walk over them, no issue. But they would do that, and then you'd walk over them, and they'd go and they'd climb up you and kill. And I'm like, no, you did the thing to let me know that you were dead. It's little moments like that. But my overall experience playing standard mode is that I really liked it and enjoyed it. Like there were some moments where I generally had to be clever. Like when I was playing as Carlos and I was in the hospital, and you go up against those giant lizard monster things, right? When you go up against them, they're a nightmare to fight on their own, especially in standard mode. They take a lot more ammo. Like if you play in assisted mode, a few shots to the head and they're dead. Whereas in standard mode, it's a whole different ball game. So you had me being really sort of stressed trying to kill one of them, and then I had to go into a room where there was two of them. And my original thought was, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to stand by the door, throw a flash grenade in, come back out, flash grenade goes off, go back in, kill one, and then rinse and repeat. And it worked the first time, so I opened the door, threw a flashbang in, moved back, blew up, went in, spent most of my ammo killing one of them. And then I thought, okay, I'll do it again, realizing I haven't got, not paying attention to the fact that I haven't got that much ammo left. I spent most of it killing one of them. That by the time I threw the next flashbang in, and the other one was stunned, and I started shooting it, I did hardly had any ammo left, and then it ran out. So I went to my pistol, I had about 3-4 rounds left in that one, maybe 6. I'm like, I'm going to do nothing. I've got no grenades. I've found everything in the area that I need. I'm buggered. I've got nowhere I can go. My back's against the wall. And yeah, he killed me. I tried to pull my knife out and thought, screw it. You know, if he's going to kill me, he's going to kill me. So I thought, get the knife out. And I tried my best to do the whole Carlos takedown, where if you do a quick, perfect dodge, you can hit them and take them down. I tried to do that. I tried to knife him. Obviously, it didn't work. I got myself killed. So what I ended up doing, I went to YouTube and I watched a YouTube video of just being like, where is the exact location of the tape recorder in the room? And it was in the far sort of left corner as you walk in. So I figured, well, I've got two flash grenades. This is what I'll do. So you have like a window we can look in. So I basically plan, I'm going to come through the door, I'm going to throw a flash grenade in, stun both of them, run over to the counter, pick up the tape, then throw another flash, dodge any of them that try to come for me, and then I'm going to run out the other side of the door, and then I'm going to go through that door, then I'm going to go around the corner and jump out the window, and then jump down to the courtyard and go around. And that's what I did, and it worked, and I was very proud of myself, and I felt very accomplished. I felt like, well, you know, I played the game against it. You know, the fact of my back's against the wall, I could spend ages trying to use ammo, but I'd be like, no, think laterally about it. Let's think cleverly about it. I've got 2 flash grenades. I've got no grenades left. You know, what would be the best thing for me in this situation to do? And it was the flash grenades. And then from then on, when I eventually got round to getting the antivirus and saving Jill and all that, I basically got to the round where you had to fight one of them again, and I was like, nope, can't be bothered. So I ran right past him, dodged him, and went straight to Jill and gave her the vaccine. And then it was that moment where you had to hold off against that big zombie horde, which was a lot easier than I thought it would be, especially on standard mode. And luckily, by the time that another one of them lizard things pops up, I had a grenade handy, so I managed to kill it instantly with the grenade. But yeah, my overall experience in standard mode, that it was a lot more difficult, and obviously with Nemesis being the dick, it was annoying, but it was a fun experience, and I felt more accomplished. Don't get me wrong, when I played the standard mode of Resident Evil 2, because it was a longer campaign, and because I was playing as Claire, and because I got to see sort of the true ending, by the end of it, I felt more rewarded. I felt like more accomplished. I generally sat there and went, you know what, that took me forever, but I did it. You know what I mean? Whereas this game, it was more of a hassle. It was more of a, it's a bit more of a sort of a quick story, bit of a quick sort of annoyance because of Nemesis. He just got annoying. Um, so that's kind of what bit of a downside, really, to it. But you know, it's a fun experience. It is, and I do recommend it if you are more of a hardcore fan of Resident Evil. Obviously, you know how best to play these games in and out, and you know how to resource manage perfectly. Obviously, you're a hardcore fan. Then, by all means, obviously, standard is not difficult at all, and you'll be able to run through it quite easily. But I always say Resident Evil games, and I'll probably do this for all the rest of the Resident Evil games that I ended up playing and reviewing for this podcast, is that I'll always go through assisted mode just to get my bearings, and then I'll go through again as standard, because I feel like, because I knew where I had to go, because I knew where everything was, there was never a moment where if I played the standard straight away, I probably would have died a lot more. I probably would have gotten a lot more annoyed, and there would be potentially possibly where I would have rage quit. I almost did at the very beginning when I'm stuck in the downtown. The only reason that I didn't was because I persevered, and luckily where Nemesis is, there was an electric like a junction box, so I just waited for him to get close enough so that the box would electrocute him and one of his minions. Those little tentacle horrible minion things that just are really unfair as well, would electrocute him and that minion, so I could run up the stairs, quickly go around the zombies at the top, beat him to the door so he doesn't jump down and block my way out. Which luckily I managed to do it on sort of the third, probably fourth or fifth time, to be honest. Go around him, go through, going to the subway station, and then once I knew I was in the sewers, I knew that from then every other time I meet the nemesis, it's mostly me just running away, and as long as I dodged his rockets, and I was able to dodge any sort of attacks that he'd give, I'd be all right. And it wasn't plain sailing, but after you get past that downtown area, and because again I'd done everything I needed to do in that area, I didn't really need to go looking around. I was able to run through, and I was able to the game got a lot more easier because I had a lot more resources from that first area. I feel like if I didn't properly explore that first area first, then I feel like it would have been a more difficult and probably a lot more annoying. But yeah, my experience playing in standard mode was fun. I just feel like because Nemesis is annoying, that it kind of hindered it. But the moments where the Nemesis wasn't being Nemesis, really, when the boss battles weren't so challenging, I knew what I had to do. The only thing that got really annoying was the fact of, as you go through the stages, he is just a bullet sponge, and that you would just pump him full of like grenade explosives or acid or fire rounds, and all it would really do is just stun him so you could get a few shots off with the shotgun or the pistol, and then rinse and repeat basically. And then after the end boss fight is just destroy a few pustules, dodge him when he slams on the ground, destroy a few pustules, that sort of thing. Put the sort of fuel pod things back in, reload the rail gun, and then sort of rinse and repeat from there, really. So yeah, overall experience not bad. My end results on standard, which I'm quite proud of myself. So I think when I completed my first run, actually, I think I've got the photo still. Let me have a look. I'll pull it on Discord. Let me look. Where is the gaming? Let me scroll up. So, on my first run unassisted, my clear time was 4 hours, 39 minutes, and 8 seconds, with 24 saves and 1 death, and I got a C rank. This time round, I'm a lot more proud of myself. So, game mode standard. Obviously, I'll post this on Twitter so everybody can have a look. Clear time 3 hours, 23 minutes and 45 seconds. So I got under 4 minute mark as I wanted. I saved 34 times. That's mainly down to the fact of Nemesis was a nightmare, and the whiteheads when you're in the underground facility, they're a nightmare as well, because their grabbing range, their sort of grabbing box area, is so huge that even if you dodge, they still grab you. And obviously, of course, when you shoot them, they regenerate as well, so it's just a nightmare. So majority of the time, I just try to dodge around them as much as possible and not waste ammo on them, and only really wasted ammo on them with a shotgun blast, and that was just to push them back so I can run around. And 9 deaths, and again, most of those deaths were down to Nemesis in the downtown area, and then the other lot of those deaths were down to when I was playing as Carlos, trying to fight those lizard crocodile things. But apart from that, I would say that is an improvement. Playing on standard, 34 saves, 9 deaths, B rank. I did it in 3 hours and 23 minutes, the whole campaign. That's mainly because I knew the story, I knew what I was doing. I skipped a lot of the cutscenes. So possibly would have been a bit long, probably a bit longer if I'd gone around to get the collectibles. I'll probably play that on my own in my own time in assisted mode, just running around getting all the collectibles for myself, like destroying all the Charlie bobbleheads and collecting all of the records, which I mostly got all of them in my first run. There's a few I'm missing, and I managed to find a new upgrade as I was playing through the game, which I completely missed last time. But yeah, not bad at all. But yeah, my overall experience after 2 playthroughs of Resident Evil 2 is generally, I would recommend it. Even though it's short and it's not as survival horror as Resident Evil 2 Remake is, I would still say if you played Resident Evil 2 Remake and you enjoyed it and you liked Raccoon City and you love the characters and you're a new fan like me and you're invested and you want to get into this world more, then I would recommend it because again it expands on that story. It's set I think a few hours before the events of Resident Evil 2. You also get a different take on a different character's experience while in Raccoon City, and you get to see another parts of the city that you didn't get to see in RE2. So for that alone, it's worth it. For the gameplay, it's more not first, it's more of an FPS, more of a third-person shooter. Again, on standard mode, you don't really have the assisted aim. So but to be honest with you, if you've played a lot of first person or third person shooter games, you'll have no issues. Like, you do need to be a bit more accurate if you want to get headshots, but when you've got an assault rifle playing as Carlos, you just aim for the body and aim for the legs and the zombies will go down. They're mostly just bullet sponges, but yeah, if you play on assisted mode, you ain't even got to do that, to be honest. Just shoot them anywhere and they'll die quickly. With a pistol, just shoot them in the legs, blow their feet off and run around them. And just create crawlers. That's all I do when I played these games. I just make crawlers. I remember where the crawlers are so that I don't walk over them or I don't go in certain areas. And that way they can't chase after me, and certain areas are safer to go back to than others because I know there's only crawlers there. And, they'll either won't be there because they've despawned or they've moved along somewhere else. But they're easy to spot and not as much of a danger. So yeah, my overall experience is that I really enjoyed it. Obviously, second playthrough, Nemesis was the dick and really unfair, and he was jumping everywhere and grabbing me, and really almost made me rage quit, to be honest. And generally, I think if it wasn't for the podcast, I probably would have rage quit and decided, no, it's not worth it. But I did it for you all. I wanted to prove it to myself that I could do it. And obviously, what's the point recording this if I wasn't going to bother finishing it in the first place? So yeah, I persevered. And I did it, and I managed to beat my time by an hour, so I'm very proud of that. Yeah, more saves and more deaths, but you know what? There are times when this game's really unfair, but it's still fun. It's still a lot of fun, and like I said, if you like Resident Evil, it's perfect. Just don't go in expecting survival horror, or at least horror. Survival, yes, just don't come in expecting horror. More so, just expect set pieces, action set pieces, and just a load of sort of unfair moments. It depends on what difficulty you're playing on. I probably won't get any higher than standard if I'm being completely honest with myself and you all. This is probably where the ship ends in terms of the podcast review for it. Like I said, I'll probably play on my own, going through getting the collectibles in my own time, as I did with the raccoons for Resident Evil 2. On my own time, I went through and got all them, and I got all the records. But yeah, it's a lot of fun and I do recommend it. So that has been my experience with Resident Evil 3 Remake. Obviously, the next one will be Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I'm really excited for that one. I'm going to get the Gold Edition because the Gold Edition comes with all of the added bonus stuff as well as the Separate Ways DLC with Ada Wong. And if you've listened to my Resident Evil 2 review, you know that I like Ada and that you know that I want to know more about her and I want to know more about her and Leon's relationship, and I want to see more Leon because I love Leon in Resident Evil 2. So I'm really looking forward to that. But until then, thank you very, very much for listening to the podcast. If you like this or you feel like somebody else would like it, don't forget to share it amongst your friends. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Comment down what you think, comment down tips and tricks, comment down like feedback or things that you feel like I should have done, or maybe even drop a comment that you might think help other people that are running through this game. Things like that. So if you're on YouTube, drop a comment, like and subscribe. If you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to leave me a star rating if you like the episode. I appreciate that greatly. And so you've been listening to the Nerdstalgic podcast. I've been your host, Luke the Human, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.